Good morning, everyone. This is HP Shalom, broadcasting from very early in the morning Pacific time. I hope you all well. Happy Sunday. So, why don't we take a moment to sort of line ourselves up? I myself have only been up for 15 minutes, so it's good to kind of center ourselves, become present, but at the same time, relax. To get our backs and our energy channels sort of aligned and untwisted from the night before, and to sort of stretch out our muscles and our legs. But we'll work on that in a moment. Right now, if you're in front of your prayer space, you just sort of sit in the posture that you normally sit in. You have the candle on. You don't necessarily need to light the incense yet. Just reach out, just sort of try to touch your toes while seated. It's just a light little stretch. Work out that tension a little bit there, the stiffness. And then go to your normal seated position and try to sort of straighten your back a little bit. And there's a few things I want to say before we begin, but first I want us to just kind of tune in and connect, become present, and at the same time work on being present and more spacious before we start. So if you've been practicing, you'll have that ability a little more than before. Okay, so fingertips together. Couple deep breaths. If you've been doing this for a while, or have greater capacity, there's a certain energetic focus which you could place in the sort of third eye area, which helps line up the body. So the heart area is activated and the area up there is activated. And that really brings the body into focus and presence. So just try to rest in that openness a little bit. Abba, 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 Abba. So now just put your attention to your body and your mind and your energy and see how you feel different. And when I said the name of God, I felt energized. I felt an energy enter me. And my body, my battery, became energized. And now there's a yellowish, energetic energy that's moving in me. Does that make sense? So we can call in an energy to sort of energize us. That's what the names are supposed to do. It helps put us in a certain alignment, in a certain energy. It could also give us strength. Like if we have to exert ourselves or we're a little sleepy, right? We want to activate more of our brains, make sure we're in alignment, and we want to pop in for a meeting or a confrontation or just to be able to enjoy the nature, and we're a little scattered so we can't really be present. These are things we can do by bringing in a sacred name. It sort of shifts things for us very quickly. This is why people work with mantras. So I wanted to just say a couple things about what I said last week. Firstly, since I'm currently teaching from the perspective of Judaism, I just want to make it very clear that what I've been teaching, these concepts and way about going about things, very much exist in the Jewish tradition. So it's not foreign out there that it has had no place in the tradition. It has. Okay, so working with the body, working with the breath, postures, stretching, it all has a place in Judaism, and it has in the past. Just kind of want to make that clear so it's well grounded. Okay? Also, I think I've touched upon this in the past. I think I may have touched upon it last week, but I'm not quite sure. I think I have. I think I did. We're working on things at several different levels. So the mantras, names of God, which we just did, works with the energy of the body. Then there's the path of the heart, devotion, love, expression towards God, expression towards others, expression to ourselves, that heart of compassion, of empathy, of kindness, of charity, of generosity. Okay? There's the mind, important, discipline, right conduct, ethics, morality. We discussed that last week some. Right? Those you intend to do. It's a decision, it's a conscious decision to do the right thing. To act, as opposed to not acting. Or sometimes not acting is the right ethical and moral thing to do. So that's the mind. Right? Then we have the body, the structure of our body. So there's the energy, nerves, electricity, thoughts are energy. We could work. So the mind is not just a decision that's conscious. There's subconscious thoughts. There's thoughts that are flowing around which ride the energy, right? Discussed before, and a part of the energy as well, are influenced by energy. But there's also the body itself, the bones, our muscles. The bones in our legs and pelvis are the largest bone structures in our body and the most dense. They hold most of our battery, most of everything we've accumulated, all that energy that makes us feel full and overwhelmed and saturated, that's mainly held in the legs, in the bones, in the calcium of the bones. It's sort of a battery. And so we're trying to clear the body by working with the body. So we unlock this so it moves. And then we become unstuck. We think better. We're able to act more compassionately. So we have the mind, we have the heart, we have the body, and we also have our actions. By acting better, it helps unlock our body, our heart moves better, our thoughts and actions are better by the conscious decisions of good mitzvah that we do. Yes? So they all work with each other. A little thing here helps unlock that. So when I was in bed at 4:30 in the morning this morning and I couldn't sleep any longer, to my great chagrin, I started thinking on what I was going to say with regard to this. So it's a little bit like a car. By working on the engine, which is the body, it helps move the oils and the electricity in the car better, which helps the engine to function better. By working with the computer chip, because all our cars are basically computers nowadays, that's basically the mind. And that sends better instructions to the engine and to everything else in the car, which in turn helps the computer work better and the rest of the car. And when the electricity works better in the car, this is not the perfectly functioning car, as you gather, right? It might unlock some algorithms in the mind that it does other settings, which it wasn't doing before, even though it should have, which helps recalibrate everything. This is an organic system which everything works in our body together. So by doing a little of this and a little bit of that, everything starts aligning. This is why I kind of bring in these concepts when it's time, but relatively early. Anything dealing with energy is intermediate level. Nobody said the word to me until I was 6 years in. But by bringing it forward now, it sort of opens these doors. You become aware of it and how they relate to each other. And then they become relatable. It opens paradigms, ways of perceiving things. And by your awareness of knowing that it's there, how it influences you, then you're able to engage with it. If you don't know that it's there, you don't know how it influences you, you don't know how it accumulates in you, and you don't know how to release it, then it's stuck. It's not fixable because you're not even aware that there is anything to fix, and you're not aware that it even exists. So there's nothing to adjust, but yet there is something to adjust. So by touching onto these topics, even at basic levels, it starts making it workable. And by making it workable, it starts to shift and move. And you progress much faster. Hence why it's presented earlier. There is a school of thought that teaches the way I do. So it's not just me, and it's highly validated, but it's not as common, and this is quicker, theirs take a long time, and people get discouraged and they stop because they don't find progress quickly enough. But this is very safe. You go slowly. What we're trying to do is relax back into factory setting. At our core is God. this is what I'm going to say next goes against common theology of a certain religious group. At our core is not evil. We are not inherently sinful at our core. If we were, doing this would connect to a very sinful nature and therefore would not be the right thing to do. At our core is our soul, the heart of God. So there has to be purity at our core. You have to think things through very carefully. And you realize that we are not inherently sinful at our core. What can make us, quote unquote, sinful, separated from God, right, by our actions, which are not in alignment with Him, which can be called sin, right, is what makes us that, are the layers on top of that purity. So it's a layer. It's a way of being, an energetic misalignment that sits on top of the purity. So we might think, oh my God, I have all these impulses that aren't correct. I am sinful. I don't like the use of that word, but I'm trying to address a particular way of thought that exists in this world, so I'm using those terms, because they use those terms. And we all think that, some of us, right? So it's a layer above. So there's the gold and there's dirt, right? Oh, that's a good example. So we have that gold. Remember I gave the story of the person who's homeless and lives in a shack, doesn't know he's rich because there's a massive nugget of 24 karat gold underneath his bed, right? So we think we're the dirt that's on top of the golden nugget, which we would call sin. And we're like, well, we're sin. I see the dirt. There's dirt. I'm sinful at my base. No. When you clean off the dirt, you realize at your base, it's 24 karat gold. That's the heart of God. So by us relaxing and doing these practices like an archaeologist, we are cleaning off the dirt. And the gold has a certain radiation. It emanates an energy. So as we clear it, we're able to feel God's presence more. God's voice, God's energy, God's presence, God's little whisper. You should do this instead. Don't do that. Oh, that's not going to end up really good for you. There's practical advice, by the way, too. What is it? What is it? Is it wisdom within us? Parts of our mind that's really not forward enough to really speak loud enough to influence habitual ways of doing things, ways we've always done it. But in that situation, that would not make the good decision. Is that certain intelligence in our minds? Sometimes you don't know fully. But it's definitely wise, and it's definitely aligned, and it definitely ends up being correct. But are we able to put it into action? Can we shift what we wanted to do and listen to that voice after we've grown confident that it's correct, by listening to it, not doing it, and realizing that it should have been what the voice said? So be careful, because it could be off. So you have to be wise. You just don't go leaping into things. You start looking at it. You start contemplating it. You start, is this accurate? Is it not? Is it aligned? Because as we work and clean off that dirt, we realign ourselves. Different ways of acting, different ways of perceiving, different ways of thinking, because our energy in our body shifts. We use different channels. We unblock things. We use maybe different parts of our minds that just weren't functioning, wasn't getting that access before. So that part of our mind really wasn't in play before. Or a channel in our body was blocked, and therefore our thinking was a little skewed. The way we perceived the world was a little off. And let me tell you, we're all a little off. And it's not a positive or negative thing, it's just the reality of it. And when we realize we're out of alignment, we can really understand it when we start popping back into alignment. Because you think the wall is a cream color, but it's actually white. How do you realize the wall is white? Somebody can tell you it's really white. You're like, okay, a leap of faith, right? But then as you do the practices and the wall starts turning into white, you realize, oh my God, it is white. You get faith through experience, right? Because you see, oh my God, it really is white. And then you get confidence in what you're doing, very important. But then you also realize, oh, there was something a little off in my eyesight. My perceptions were off. And you start realizing just because you see it and perceive it a certain way isn't necessarily exactly the way it is, quote unquote, is. So this is why this is so important, what we're doing. We're working with different levels of our body, the mind, heart, energy, our actions, our physicality, to make it all sort of go back to that factory setting, that wholeness that is our birthright. That's that 24-karat gold. Things start shifting. The other day at work, I've been doing more practices, working with my physicality along with all of you, and I was doing an energy practice while I was working, which I haven't taught yet. And all my bones started to, realign. And it wasn't, when you crack a bone, it's high pitched. This was all lower pitched. It was a fundamental movement of all the bones. And parts of my back, around the shoulder and the spine, all up and down my spine, was cracking and moving in small portions, up and down, all around my legs, my neck. I don't crack my bones. I'm not extremely flexible. And shoulder. And I was praying that the people around me wouldn't notice. And literally everything moved and cracked in places of my spine that I thought could not move. That is a realignment of the body back to factory settings. Now, unless you have practice doing that, please don't hurt yourself. I know my body, it's happened before, so I have confidence in leaning into it. So, but as an example, that shows when the body enters into alignment, into a presence, everything sort of shifts into back the way it's supposed to be, and the body knows. The mind knows. The heart knows. So in a way, we just have to get ourselves out of the way and allow the changes to flow, to drain that battery. My battery drained, and all the bones realigned everywhere in my body, especially my spine and my neck. but down to the wrists, down to the fingers, down to the toes. I've never quite experienced it in that way before. But I was applying myself for the last 2 months in a certain way, with a lot of discipline and certain techniques, and it breaks through a lot of karma. And as you do that, the body eventually doesn't have those energies in it, and therefore it's able to snap into a different alignment, which causes you to think differently, look differently. You could function on much less sleep. Normally I need 8 hours. The last month and a half I've been functioning on 5.5 because that's all I can get. But that's all I've needed. I'm not tired. Why? That makes no sense to me. But yet it does, because it's in the books. So ways of living that you didn't think were possible become possible. And then you realize, why did I need 8 hours? My body doesn't need 8 hours. But then it did, but now it doesn't. Do you see? So your perception of what reality and what's needed and things that you took sort of as chapter and verse are not necessarily what it is. You're not stuck there. You don't have to be. Does that make sense? And therefore, you're able to grow in your devotion and alignment to God if that is what you're directing these practices towards. Where are you aiming your car? You could aim these techniques in many different directions. But the core is God. So we just have to relax. There are other techniques out there that can direct the car to other things. But why? You just have to relax, and God's there. And that's the destination you need to do. There's one example, and then we're going to do the practices. I just want to quickly touch on. And it's not an example. Right now we're doing sort of different techniques, right, consciously. At some point, it's going to become a routine, day after day, week after week, month after month, and even year after year. And you're going to start doing it without an intent. I need to clear my energy, my mind, my thoughts. Right? You're just going to do the practice. It's like tennis. You just start hitting the ball, right? And it's just, you're going to do it, hopefully. It's like a path. You just need to walk it and you get to the destination. It's like the trail in the Sierra Nevada mountains. I love using California analogies. It's called the John Muir Trail, very long, very beautiful. And you want to walk parts of it, or all of it. You just stay on the trail, the path, the John Muir path, right? So you just stay on it. And it gets you there. And how do you get there? You just walk it. There's no decisions. You have the techniques, you know how to walk, and you just stay on the trail. And then it all starts working. So you don't have to think, I want to have a clearer mind. I want to be able to pray better. I want to be able to sense God's direction in my life. I want to have that wisdom and guidance that I feel comes from God on what to do and what not to do. I need help on making decisions, and I want to rely on God. I want to be more compassionate. I want to heal my illness. I want to live to an old age, so I don't want to get illnesses. I don't want to get that illness that's genetically runs in my family and all this. You don't have to think about those things. Just by walking on the path, things naturally just happen by the progress. Because everything just starts lining up. And one day, you realize that you're not thinking like everyone else. You realize you have high blood pressure, and then you realize, please do not stop taking your meds for this example. I always worry when I give examples. You realize, my blood pressure is high, and then you realize, along with your meds, please, if I breathe this way and I now can relax my body, and with the prayer, I'm able to lower my blood pressure by my intent and my abilities in my body, which is completely possible. My doctor thinks my blood pressure is so low now. Doesn't mean you need to take off your meds, by the way, right? But you have an ability to heal. I was once in the ER. So, I love this story. I've done it a few times. Those poor nurses, they don't like me. So I have, the heart monitor on, right? It shows my heart rate and everything. Well, somebody who's done a lot of meditation can lower the heart rate pretty low. But I normally don't have the biofeedback. So there was a friend in the room, and I said, watch this. Let me see if I can lower my heart rate. So, poor nurse. So when I was getting it below like 65 beats a minute, I didn't know she had set alarms. The alarm started going off. Poor thing ran in white-faced. And I said, no, I just was meditating to lower it. She was so upset at me. But it shows what's possible, right? We are able to shift things in our body. We're able to shift the way we think and where we act. We can become better people. We can become less angry. We can, by those things, actually lower our blood pressure, because we start acting and behaving and thinking in different ways. Right? So it's very much possible. And so this is what we're doing. And to put it in religious terms, we can become holier. We can increase our vibration. And then ultimately we start preparing ourselves, our world, our families, our society, our environment. It's Tuku Onam. We become agents of God, and we put in that positivity in a dimension, our dimension, that desperately needs it. But we have to start with ourselves. Do you see? You could still do the charities and everything now and try with your families, and that's part of it, right? Good actions, creating good mitzvah helps unlock things, right? But this time, this sacred time that we take out of our day in our home, in front of our prayer space, or in our places of worship, or in nature, maybe all three, hint, hint, because that way it mixes it up a little bit, which is good. But definitely your time at home, which hopefully you set a regular time a day, because that makes it easier. Even if it's 15, 20 minutes, really, that makes a big difference. It really does. That is where we do that necessary work on ourselves. Because as you're gathering, it's our mind, it's our heart, it's our body, it's our energy. We have to work on ourselves, because ultimately that's the only thing we have control of. Our life, our mitzvah, our karma, our frequency, our destiny as to where we go after this life's over. Actually, our life never ends. There's no such thing as death. It's just that our body falls away. Yeah? So why don't we stretch our legs, get that flow on our legs moving, the density and the tightness of our muscles in our legs hold the energy in. By relaxing it, we're going to start having that flow so things can start processing. As your battery drains, your bones are going to start to crack in a good way. They will start realigning because the pressure that was keeping them out of alignment is going to be reduced. And therefore, they'll align. And as your bones are aligned, your thoughts will start becoming clearer and aligned. It's all frequency, my friends. It's all energy. All this world is the interplay and movement of energy. Really is. You think it's solid. It's really not that solid. It's all energy that's moving, which affects solid things, such as our bodies and our actions. But beneath it is all energetic. So we are healing our bodies, healing our minds, healing our actions. And what does that do? That increases our frequencies. Higher frequency thinking, let's just change frequency to vibration. Because frequency is vibration, but what I'm going to say next will make much more sense. Higher vibrational thinking, higher vibrational actions, higher vibrational flows in our body, which does what? Disease is lower vibrational, right? That helps heal us. Higher vibration from us affects the vibration of our families, of our pets, of our homes, of our neighbors. Higher vibrational S affects our work, our decisions. Are bad decisions low vibration or high vibration? They're high vibration, right? Because they're more aligned. More aligned to what? To higher frequencies, which are purer. And what's the most purest frequency for somebody who believes in God? Well, it's God Himself. So as we align towards God, our ultimate goal, everything else falls into place, even if we don't focus on it. Do you see? We do the practices that leads to higher vibrational anything or everything, and naturally our hearts, body, actions, and our path to God naturally fall into place, even though that might not be our particular intent, just by simply walking the path. And we walk it by doing it. And how do we do it? We practice. So simply by practicing and using the right techniques, we naturally progress. And soon we are there. Soon we're far enough along that we start to have real faith because we've seen the real change. And then we know it's correct. And that becomes really unshakable faith because we've really experienced it. And then it's easy to go the rest of the way because you're like, oh my God, wow, this really, oh wow. I wish I had started when I was 8 years old. Yeah, I wish kids started when they were 7. They wouldn't have any of the hardships that we've had as adults. They would be much more aligned and had much happier, fulfilling lives with a lot less pain and a lot less problems that adults have now, or when they become adults. So, but it's never too late. It's always available. because that 24-karat nugget lives within. There is complete divine purity at our very core, at the very essence of our bones, and yes, even the leg bones. Everything vibrates with God. Otherwise, it wouldn't be alive. It wouldn't exist in this dimension. Anything completely removed from God simply does not exist. It can't. It's just obscured. There's dirt. There's the past. There's trauma. There's just not knowing that it works, that it could just be blown off. Sometimes it's just tapping into it and giving a little bit of a blow, and whoa, clears and moves. Doesn't have to take a long time. For some it's easier, for some it's not. For some, the path of the heart or the path of actions are the paths for them. They put in a little yoga, but stretching, but not so much their thing. For others, they go full on into the stretching and working on the body because that really resonates with them. And then it might unlock the mind aspects or the heart aspects in a couple years. Pick the part that you feel most drawn to, but I suggest you work on all the different levels at the same time. But now, this winter, it is all about the body. So we're going to stretch our legs, and we're going to spend a little time. I just wanted to really reiterate this, because I really want people to understand how this is based in religion, and why it's so important. I didn't want people to think that, HP Shalom is going off on a side road here. No, this is the main road, people. And so when we really go more into this, just, I hope people really understand how essential this is. Everything comes from energy, our thoughts, our actions, and everything. And working with the body, and that deep energy of working with the currents of the body is the most powerful way to make change. Because we're working with the essence of everything that is us. We worked with the mantras of God at the very beginning, and that was literally working with the essence that is us, because the name is an energy current. So we're going to work now more with the physicality of it. And then we could also bring in some of the names of God as well. And then we have working with energy, and on top of working with energy. And our thoughts and our actions and our ability to love and be generous and compassionate will just naturally grow, will naturally evolve. It can't not. Because we're shifting our frequency, and everything else will follow, including our devotion, our ability to connect, and our faith. All right? So we're going to quickly stretch our legs. I'm just touching my toes. Get in the right posture. All right, so your arms over your head, palms facing forward, or you could have your fingertips touching. I do it both ways, and so palms facing forward, the arms sort of naturally above your head. They don't have to touch, just where it feels naturally above your body, and just, twist lightly your back, please. Don't hurt yourselves. People know whether they can do this or not. You really have to. I leave it up to you and people's common sense as to what they're able to do. But try to just move your back, if you're able to, kind of side to side, backwards and forwards, just trying to move the spine a little bit. You could put your hands on your sides, right, with the shoulders kind of a 90-degree off to the sides, and you kind of walk to the left and the right. We're trying to bring a little movement to the spine. So kind of move your spine, moving the left shoulder towards the front of the body and the hand sort of towards to the front, and then the right and the shoulder back and the right hand to the back, and you move the head to the right, that kind of stretch. It's a yogic, well, it exists everywhere, but definitely in yoga. I didn't have time last week, I apologize, to put up pictures. But I guess now I'll put up pictures on this too. I guess the list is growing to kind of give people an example. But you go slowly and carefully with these stretches. Maybe arch yourself, your hand over your head, the left, and you move your body to the left. All this is when you're in a seated position. So you're trying to move fluidity in the spine to kind of get it get it more supple. All energy moves through the spine. So this is why acupuncture and massage is great, stretching is great. We want to increase our flexibility. Yes? But we have to work with our bodies and also our age. If we are 75, 80 years old, our bones might not move that much. So, well, that's just the way it is. You work on things you can move. Or with, a professional, you work on trying to become more supple. Right? If you have an injury, well, that might not be a move you want to do. If you're younger and you can do it, then do it. I was very rigid, but I didn't have an injury, and I knew it was because of my past and what I've had to go through, and that I was able to do it. It would just take time and practice and a lot of stretching and acupuncture and a lot of massage, deep tissue massage, and a lot of steam rooms to get my muscles very, very relaxed and supple. And I would stretch in there very carefully. You could really make an energy outburst if you do it too fast, but I seem to have that innate ability on being able to gauge things. And with all these things together, I was able to become much more flexible. So you are able to heal your body. And part of the path is to heal your body. Health of body is health of mind, and it's health of spirit. So a body that's not healthy has energetic imbalances, just by its very definition. So we work on that. We don't neglect our bodies. Our bodies are essential. So we make it more of a priority to make sure our bodies are healthy. And it helps with our religious and spiritual progress. Yes? All right, so hopefully people done a little stretch, and so you get back into your seated posture, whatever it is, and you kind of feel your back and your spine and your legs and see if you're fully upright. Shoulders slightly back, right, and the spine is straight. You're seated not too much on the legs, and you're not leaning too far back. You're in that right position, the correct position, where you just feel like you're sort of, lack of a better, the back of your butt is able to kind of pivot around perfectly. You feel very, very centered, very much on your sort of the focal point of your body. Just you feel very aligned, yes? And then you look at your shrine, your prayer space, your altar, and the holy objects or spiritual objects you have there. Hopefully your candle is lit. You could light some incense if you want or not. So a more advanced technique for those on the call who have more experience, maybe already know this, maybe in better ways than I do, just by the alignment, you can release the inner energy in the channels all the way up and just snap right into that space, right? Especially if you close your eyes, you could literally work with subtle movements of the spine and move that conscious energy up from the bottom all the way to the top and relax into the open space. And once everyone's developed a technique to practice like that, you can do that anywhere you are, and that'll pop you right into a more awake state on the spot. It's a little technique. It allows you to kind of pull back and open and be very conscious almost instantly. But it takes the practice and the clearing to be able to have that energy flow with your intent and working with the alignment and subtle movements of your body for it to flow. Because the channels are open. The battery's been redrained. But the battery's still there. The container is still there. Our bodies may have been drained, but the container, our bodies are still there. That means there's all that open room for energy to be able to flow with our intent. And it's pure and more aligned with a greater sense of purity because it's not affected with all that gunk that was in there. There's not a lot of competing frequencies. Does that make sense? So we're going to work with the breath because that's a good way. The breath is one of the lightest forms of frequencies in our body. It's very, very much a frequency. It's what we call subtle energy. And it helps clear and move energies out, and it also helps unblock things. So you find that alignment, that sort of pivot area, and you're just going to breathe in through the nose, and we're going to exhale. But it's not going to be harsh right now. So it's intense. It's just going to be like a 5-second inhale, hold it for a couple seconds, and then maybe a 5-second exhale. So please practice this during the week because we're going to start moving down this path. And if you're not practicing, you won't get the experiences. You kind of have to start riding the bike. So if I get to the 10 speed by the month of February, March, right? if you haven't ridden the basic bikes, you're not going to be able to ride the 10-speed. And I wouldn't want you to, because you could hurt yourself. So you really kind of need to do the practices so you can grow with them. And so as I add things to it, because this is the first step we're doing right here, you're able to follow along. And so by the end of spring or the beginning of spring, you'll have a really good breathing practice that you'll be able to use. But it requires developing the skill. You can't jump off the deep end of the pool if you're not on the shallow end learning how to swim. So you'll need to do this 3 or 4 times a week, at least 4 times, to start developing the skill and moving that energy slowly, sort of prepping it for when we do deeper and more intense breathing exercises, because you've already started the process of having it move. Otherwise, the deeper practices, well, definitely won't work. But my more concern is you might move more energy than you're capable and then have an adverse effect. Because you kind of have to dust off the clearing, and you don't just move a massive amount of dirt. You start taking it off the surface, right? So we're taking it off the surface, and we're gradually, like an archaeologist, going a little deeper and a little deeper, a little deeper. And as a while you go deeper, you're able to use a little more intensity because you've loosened the dirt up and you have a capacity and a knowledge on how to dig. Does that make sense? And your body has learned to process it, and you know through experience how much to do, how little to do, how much force, or whether it's too much. You're learning how to do it with the technique by your practice of starting slowly, and then you start learning how it affects you, whether it's for you or whether it's not, whether you have the mental state for it or you don't, or is it too intense, or is it perfect and does it help? You feel less traumatic, PTSD? Does it heighten it? You know, you have to work with your service providers that help you with these things, or just normal anxiety. Do you feel your body's draining and you feel more calm? Oh my God, this is so helpful. Oh my God, I went to my practice area and my mind was racing. And then I did the breathing and I was calm. I would have never been able to get there that fast before. And that is what the technique is for, actually. So do you understand conceptually here? Yes? This has to be done safely. So we're just doing breathing in and out. So this anybody can do. Okay? So, and it's not that intense what I'm going to show by the end of, it's just you can go really deep with it, or it can go more shallow. The technique I'll start introducing toward the later part of winter. But there's all sorts of different levels to it with the intensity we do. I just like to be very safe with everything. But it can be quite profound and quite moving. And, it only really unblocks what you're able to unblock. But, for a small, very small minority of people, it's best to just go really slowly for everyone. Yes? So we're going to just breathe in, and we're going to breathe out to the nose. started doing a more forceful breath because I feel I kind of need it. But let's just start with, just a lighter breath, and it's just a deeper exhale. A lot of these techniques, just I want to say, are taught to everyone. But the way I teach it with the knowledge of the energy and the mantras and everything, we're activating a lot in our bodies. And this really, in conjunction with everything we're doing, is really going to activate everything. And people are going to find movement and positive change that you're looking for in your life. If you're listening to me, that means you want a certain change. You want to evolve. You want to connect in different ways. This is really going to help things move and change. It's very safe, but I like to put on the caveats so people do it with caution and awareness of themselves, and it doesn't need to be done in isolation. You can bring in, other people who help you with certain things and let them know what you're doing and make sure, it's very safe. And mainly when I say these things, I'm speaking with people who need to take psychiatric medicine or need to take psychiatric medicine because it affects the mind and our thoughts. But still, it can help. But if you don't have those things, then there's really no problem whatsoever. And it could even help with those things. But just be cautious and use it with your providers, because we're really centering our minds, but we're working with the energy. And things can shift, and it has to be done in a safe way. So now, literally after the 4 breathing, my mind, and I'm looking at the medallion in front of me, that's the picture that I have on the website, I actually am able to see all the details. And it's extremely sharp. And I'm seeing it in a clearer way than I was before. And that is only 4 light breaths. So what happened? Some subtle energy settled in my mind, and my eyes, my optical nerve, is able to see clearer. And my brain is more calmer, therefore it's more focused. There's less thoughts and energy moving around, so I see clearer. And then energetically, because I'm empathic, I'm able to resonate with the picture in a more direct way. I feel its energy, and my energy is engaging with it. And that's just by doing the 4 simple breaths. It helps with a deeper alignment. Yeah? I have to watch my time. But so we're just going to quickly do it again and do maybe a 5-8 practice together. And then sadly, I have to go and start my day. But I hope you'll continue on your own for a little while. Maybe another 10 to 15 minutes. And put in that time. And maybe in intervals, every 5 or 6 minutes, or every 3 or 4, you do that light breathing. Inhale 4 or 5 seconds, hold it for a couple seconds, then a light exhale for 4 or 5 seconds. And you do it 2-3 times, like every 3-4 minutes, and see how you feel. And you kind of relax. and look in front of you and just try to find that inner center. And then when you feel ready, you could then bring in your prayer to God, because you've created an open energetic space. And then see the difference in your connection and in your prayer. And it could be a normal prayer. It can be a ancient prayer with a set number of, certain words. Or it could be one of the names of God that you repeat a couple times. And then see how, by having calmed yourself, how that affects you differently, because your container, at least for that moment, is much clearer. And hopefully you can have a deeper engagement with your prayer and your altar. See, the breathing technique is a very profound preliminary practice. You do it before you do your main practice, because it helps open and clear the gunk, right? What's the definition of gunk? The dirt, well, people just please Google it. G-U-N-K. I'm not going to be able to find the perfect definition, but you'll get the gist when you Google it. That it settles and opens you up to do your practice. And that's the power of it. And it helps clear things and the energetic pathways in the body. And as you do it over time, like lifting weights, those pathways just end up getting cleared. It's a little bit like the water under the sink, the liquid when you have a clogged sink, you put in and it clears the pipes. Well, with the course of time, it clears the pipes of the mind and of the body and allows everything to flow better. And it's safe because it accumulates over time. So I don't want people to be fearful of it at all. It does it over time. You learn how to do it gradually and slowly. And as you do it, you get more and more comfortable to do it with more intense breath work. I don't know if you noticed at the beginning, I started doing more forceful exhales, and then I stopped myself because I realized I was teaching lighter exhales. But it could be done with more intensity, and it changes the energies and how it flows in your brain, most importantly. And it affects the energies in your body. If your brain becomes more open and fluid, your energies in your body will naturally move as well. So we'll do a couple exhales, and then I'll sit with you for 4 or 5 minutes, and then please continue with your own practice, please. I hope everybody can get in 15, 20 minutes. And remember, you're all doing it together, so there's the power of that common practice, even though I have to log off. So please try to do it for about another 15, 20 minutes. And it could just be whatever you want it to be. Just, it's not all inhale, exhale. Please don't. Just do it a couple more times, but it's just 3 inhales, 3 exhales. But you could bring in the names of God, normal prayers, looking at your shrine, feeling love. There's all sorts of things that I've been teaching that you can bring in what you feel too. But please try to stay on for 15, 20 minutes more. This is how you progress. This is how you grow. And this is how you deepen. Okay? All right, my friends. So we're going to do together 3 breaths work. And after you do it, you could say a name of God if you wish, or just work with the energy. But remember the presence of God. We should call in God before we do this. Yes, that's smart. And then once we do that, remember the presence of God is with us when we do it. So I think it's a good idea. So I'm going to say the name that I work with, and then you could say the name that you relate with Him with. And then we'll do the breathing. So we'll call in God's presence and blessings and grace that He may help us with this practice. So we become better people and have healthier, fuller lives and better able to walk and practice His ways. Okay, so prayer. Put my fingertips together since we're starting with a prayer. We have that intent, so we put out that intent I just said. Having that intent focuses our minds, our fingers, tips together, and with the focus of the intent, hopefully you felt it focus your body and your attention. Alright, so we do our breaths. Just relax. Maybe wiggle our body just a little bit to allow that energy to settle. Try to find that open space. We're working on being able to rest in that open space within us. Open space of clarity. And room to maneuver. The room to fill, to love, to be, the room to be able to act and think with intent and spaciousness and wisdom. Feel any tension, just relax. Let that tension go. You can feel the freshness of the breath in your nose as you breathe in lightly. You can put your awareness on the freshness in your nose as you breathe in and just breathe out. Just relax and open. Also say a name of God in your mind or out loud to bring in that deeper relaxation and energy. Remember, there's nothing forced here. We simply relax into our birthright, into a perfect alignment. And God is holding us, and He's with us. And we're walking the path back into His arms, into His frequencies, and into His desire for our lives. Alright, so please continue for another 15-20 minutes. And I'll see you all next